peaceful song, isn't it? Whether it's a river or an ocean or a fountain. And you know, the wrinkles that Cher and I have put in these Beatitudes are really ripples, aren't they? Because they take something that was attempted to be written as a mistranslation, and we have taken those mistranslations, either purposeful or by accident, and have turned them into their original Aramaic meanings, which have created ripples. Ripples of joy and love and understanding. And we're going to continue to do that today as we talk about the Beatitudes 7, 8, and 9. So fasten your seatbelts. We're going to take a fast trip this morning so we can cover these. Now this week concludes our Aramaic and meta treatment of the Beatitudes, and we're going to reveal the deeper meanings of Beatitudes 7, 8, and 9 today from a unity perspective as we uncover the truth they hold for us. We'll also offer you a 10th Beatitude, which doesn't appear anywhere except in the Fig Newton of Cher in my mind. But you will receive the 10th Beatitude today along with the other 9 in the handout that we will have available for each of you at the end of the service in the back. So you don't have to take notes. So let's take a look at the traditional version of the 7th Beatitude, which may cause some of you to cringe just a bit, and may cause others of you to say, oh, I remember that. Of course. Here it is. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. And that's how it reads in the traditional translations. Now the world needs peacemakers, doesn't it? It needs them in every country, in every village, in every hamlet, in every family. It needs billions of them. But peace on earth begins in here and here. Because if we don't have it there, we're not going to get it out there. It's an inside job, and it really is the focus of this 7th Beatitude. Peacemakers, are you surprised, is a mistranslation of the Aramaic expression Abdi Shalama, which means by working conscientiously in service to others, we will find inner peace. Isn't that beautiful? Puts others first. Metaphysically, the expression children of God, so for those of you who cringe, you're going to feel a little bit better about this, I think. Metaphysically, children of God represents divine ideas, insights, and aspirations that come from a spiritually attuned consciousness. That's what children of God means, metaphysically. So being true to the original Aramaic and adding a pinch of metaphysics, we believe the teaching implied in the 7th Beatitude is this. We are filled with inner peace when we work conscientiously in service to others, and the divine ideas, insights, and aspirations we have, we will gain enrichment in our lives and in the lives of others. That's the Aramaic and meta treatment of that Beatitude. So we hope that resonates with you. Now the 8th and 9th Beatitudes are fraternal twins. They're like peanut butter and jelly, ham and egg, Castle and Beckett. 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. The 8th Beatitude, as it is normally written, says, blessed are they that have been persecuted for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Unfortunately, this mistranslation has led billions of people through centuries to accept martyrdom and to wear victimization as badges of honor. Millions use it to justify being persecuted for trying to convert others to their fundamental religious beliefs. This persecution complex, this poor me orientation, is not what this beatitude is about at all. The key word here, mistranslated as persecuted, actually comes from the Aramaic word detributo, which means to refrain from temptation, to resist unhealthy personal habits. Got nothing to do with persecution unless you really like the personal habits you've got. The only persecution this beatitude is talking about takes place here, between our ears, nowhere else. And our persecutors are the errant thoughts, stale belief systems, and self-defeating habits, which all come from denying our innate divinity. And as we've already learned last week, the word righteousness means right thinking. So resuscitating the eighth beatitude gives us this perspective. We are empowered when we do not allow temptations to deter us from right thinking. Can't get any simpler than that, huh?
Say that again.
We are empowered when we do not allow temptations to deter us from right thinking. Great beatitude, huh? Now, finally, the ninth beatitude complements and completes the eighth beatitude, but not in the way that it is generally written. Its Billy's version is this, and by Billy's I mean very strongly paraphrased. So, here it comes. You are blessed when people criticize you and trash talk against you for believing that ACC basketball is the best basketball in the country. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in the ACC Basketball Hall of Fame. For so persecuted they the ACC fans that went before you. Now, the real beatitude says this in its traditional version. Blessed are ye when people persecute you and say all manner of evil against you in my name. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets before you. Mine was close. Now this translation asks us to wear reproach and persecution proudly. It implies that our suffering and sacrifice will be rewarded when we step through the pearly gates. And the justification for taking this abuse is that our religious friends and biblical characters all went through the same gauntlet of misery. So we're encouraged to be faithful and to proselytize our religious beliefs. We believe the ninth beatitude says, we are blessed when we press on, when we do not allow the inertia of past religious programming to dampen our evolving spirituality. Let me read it again. We are blessed when we press on, when we do not allow the inertia of our past religious programming to dampen our evolving spirituality. Essentially, we're going from religion to spirituality. So, there you have the beatitude presented to you with an attitude. An attitude that comes from the belief that the truth will set you free. In his thought-provoking book, The Shaking of the Foundations, the brilliant German theologian Paul Tillich had this to say. The name of the infinite ground of all being is your God nature, so you may have to forget everything traditional you learned about God. Cher and I agree with Tillich, except that for his diplomatic addition of the word may to the phrase, may have to forget everything traditional you learned. We assert that you must forget most of what you learned in growing up. One of the Kabbalistic names for the infinite is called Nishanan, which means forgetting. The idea is to expand our perspective of the universal presence more through forgetting or unknowing than knowing. That is, by shedding inadequate conceptions we have, just like a sculptor cuts away at the marble to reveal the form inside. in our quest to help you walk the spiritual path on practical, metaphysical, knowledgeable, informed, non-dogmatic, spirit-filled feet, Cher and I enthusiastically invite you to forget most of the conventional theology you have learned about the Bible, God, heaven, and hell. We have turned that invitation into a bonus beatitude, as I promised earlier, which Cher will share in just a few moments.
That reminded me of a quote when he just said that. Have you ever heard the quote? I can't remember who said it, but there's a quote that says, "It ain't what we don't know that hurts us, it's what we do know that ain't so." That just reminded me of that. So, 3 Beatitudes, 3 practical applications that have to go with those now so you know what to do with them. So, that's a lot to cover in the little time we have together. So, let's jump right in and look at how do we apply it. And I want to start by looking at that first one which said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." Even though we know that there's a different interpretation to that, there is a great story that always comes to my mind with that beatitude. The story is told by Truett Cathy. And Truett Cathy is the president and founder of Chick-fil-A. And he shares the story of when Chick-fil-A was just getting started. He was looking for an opportunity for publicity. He wanted to get the name out. We had a brilliant idea, and I have to believe it's because he was at peace within himself, and this idea, just inspiration, was there. There were 2 competing newspapers in town, and the 2 newspapers had 2 editors, one at each place, who were feuding. Everybody in town knew about their feud. They refused to even walk on the same side of the street together. It was a big deal. Well, Cathy actually contacted each of them separately and invited them to his restaurant to talk about an ad for their paper. He asked them to come at the same time. So here they appear, and as you can imagine, they both get there at the same moment. Awkward. Very awkward. But Cathy just acted like he didn't even know anything was going on. He said, "I have one request, and if you'll do this for me, I will give a full-page ad to each of your papers. All I want you to do is for the 2 of you to sit at this table and each have a chicken sandwich on me, okay? After you're done, I want to take a picture of you shaking hands. And underneath we'll put the caption, 'We disagree on a lot of things, but we both agree this is the best chicken sandwich in town.'" Blessed are the peacemakers. It's amazing what we can accomplish. So we know, of course, that the peacemakers, what Jesus was referring to, according to Bill's reinterpretation, is we get this peace within when we serve others. And I think you'd agree he was serving others in that moment because he helped ease a feud that had been fighting in that town forever. Well, we have a technique to help you do this, and it's called the Monopoly move, the spiritual Monopoly move. So let's talk about this a minute. Y'all familiar with the game of Monopoly, right? I want to talk about 2 cards. One card says, "Go to jail." Y'all had that one? Go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You go to jail. This card brings stress. Right? There's another card that brings joy. You got it. Get out of jail free. And if you've got that card, that is inspiring and exciting, and you can just toss it out there and you are free. Well, spiritual Monopoly reminds us of this. How often do we put ourselves in jail? Emotionally, spiritually, physically. By our thoughts and our attitudes, by just the things that are going on with us. That's your go directly to jail card. When you feel, and your body tells you, you feel tense, you feel upset, you feel incredibly tired, yes? You feel out of sync with life. You know you're not in tune with the truth of who you are. You're in jail. But you've got to get out of jail free card. It's called service to others. And if you just get yourself into action, guess what happens? It's better than $200. You actually get this sense of inner peace that flows from the inside out. Bill and I have had the opportunity of working with a nonprofit group that actually is very close to here. It's called Purple Heart Homes. They are disabled veterans who have come together and created a foundation where they actually go out and help repurpose homes for veterans who return and are disabled. So they'll either help them get a home or they'll rebuild or rework the house they have so it will work for them with their disabilities. Great organization. They are starting the Speakers Bureau of vets who have come back, have gotten homes, have recovered their life, and are now going out to be inspiring stories for others. So we're working with the speakers that are in that speaking bureau. We sat and listened to their stories because part of what they share is their story getting to where they are. You wouldn't believe the stories they tell. Maybe you would. Some of you may have some of these stories. But the depth of despair to which each one had when they came back, mentally disabled, physically disabled, in a state of just inability to function. And they hit rock bottom. Every one of them has a story where they hit rock bottom. To a person, what turned them around was doing something in service to others. Their stories are phenomenal, but it struck us that their stories are totally different, but each of them had that turning point. Blessed are you, enriched are you, when in service to others, you find that inner peace. So if you're in that jail, that prison where you don't feel at peace, just remember you got that get out of jail free card. Get moving. Go directly to service for others, and you will find peace. That's our seventh beatitude. So let's go to the eighth beatitude. The eighth beatitude was a little bit different. And as Bill said, the eighth and ninth kind of go together, but we're going to give you a technique for each one, and they do blend. So the eighth beatitude focuses on that internal temptation. Anybody have it? Can y'all relate to this one? I mean, seriously? Okay. Because we all have temptations. Now, some of them are the physical temptations, others are the spiritual. But if we understand one, we can relate it and use it as a metaphor for the other, right? So I like to start with an example of just the physical temptations and how we deal with them. So for me, I always like to talk about food. Because as a lifetime Weight Watcher, okay, I have a relationship with food that I have had to learn how to handle. But what's important about temptation, whether it's physical or spiritual, is to know what yours is. Because what's something for one person is not a temptation for another. You have to be prepared. Because when the temptation shows up, you have to be knowing how to handle it, right? So for me, and those of you who know me, you'll know this is true. You can vouch for me. You can put a whole box of chocolates, dark chocolate, in front of me, a whole box, open it up and leave the room, and I am not tempted. I would not even take one out of the box. Am I not right there? You all know me. Yeah, chocolate is not my temptation. I know that's weird, but that's me. I don't know why.
It's more for us, though.
That's right. It gives other people more. But I gotta say, you put a freshly baked loaf of bread fresh out of the oven in front of me, all bets are off. Do not expect a slice of that bread. That is my temptation. So I have to know that. For Bill, I'm going to tell on him. His temptation, good berries, frozen custard in Durham. Nothing like a good berries concrete. You can turn it upside down, it doesn't fall out. That's his. Okay. And I like them, but that's his. So we have had to create something to help us deal with that temptation so we don't go overboard. We borrowed something from Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers had a little saying, and we just adapted it a little bit. So when we're faced with these temptations, we just say, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. Nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. And probably about 90% of the time it works. There are some times when, heck with that, we're going to eat it anyway. It's knowing what your temptation is and being prepared to handle it. So the technique from your spiritual perspective is called our truth in action technique. So when you find yourself doubting or questioning or maybe holding on to grudges or jumping in anger and something, and you know what yours are, you know what pulls you off track. As soon as you recognize it, just say, nothing brings me joy like truth in action. Nothing brings me joy like truth in action. That's your reminder to get yourself back in focus. Forget the temptation, because what fun is that? That just puts you in a pity party place, right? Let's go where the joy is. And it's a reminder to put this beatitude into practice. Yes? Yes. Okay, we've got the seventh one, we've got the eighth one. All you need now is something to do with that ninth one. that one that Bill so delightfully reworded. But we know, again, this is talking about keeping on, keeping on. This is actually, does it sound familiar? It sounds like one of our principles, right? Our fifth principle, that we not only have to believe this, that's not enough, we must put it into action. We have to live the truth we know. In other words, we have to keep on growing, keep on persisting, and always being the truth of who we are. So your technique to put this into practice is called the spiritual endorsement test. Let's talk about athletes for a moment, just a brief moment. Do you know that the best paying athletes, they actually make more money from endorsements than they do from their salary or prize money? Incredible amount they make. But the companies they are endorsing do require them to have a certain standard of living, a certain way of behaving. And if they mess up, they can lose that just like that. Just ask Tim Rice. Ray Rice. Sorry, Ray Rice. Ask Ray Rice. He lost $1.6 billion in endorsements because of his scandal with abuse. Can you imagine? Just like that. $1.6 million. Gone. They expect you to behave a certain way, and if you do not do it, you lose the endorsement. So the spiritual endorsement test invites you to ask yourself that question. Am I, you're asking yourself now, am I a good advertisement for truth principles? Oh. Are the shoes tight? I didn't mean for that to happen. But look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I a good advertisement for truth principles? As people watch me, because people are always watching, am I walking my talk? Are they seeing the truth of who I am? Am I a good advertisement for unity in Greensboro? Am I proud in every moment to be able to say, I represent this amazing spiritual community? And am I sending out that message? If not, no guilt. Again, we're not about guilt. We're not about the shoes feeling tight. We're about, if I'm recognizing I'm not, I'm going to change it. I'm going to change what I'm doing in that moment, and I'm going to become the best advertisement I can be. So look at yourself and ask yourself, am I a good endorsement? Am I the truth of who I am in everything I do? So those are the Beatitudes. We've gone 1 through 9. A lot to cover. A lot of things to do in our life. But wow, look what Jesus did with those Beatitudes. We had in the Old Testament, thou shalt not, right? Jesus transformed them into you are blessed. He didn't say what not to do. He said this is what we do. What a better way to look at it. Because we don't need to worry about what not to do if we're doing the things that make us enriched and enlightened. And so we invite you, as you move into this week, to look at how you are blessed. And we want to share our 10th Beatitude with you. Our 10th Beatitude works like this. It says, you are, we don't think Jesus would mind if we added this. We did not ask permission, but I guess we did in a way, didn't we, spiritually? You are enriched and empowered when you have the moxie to forget everything about the conventional misconceptions you learned about the Bible and God and heaven and hell. For you shall be enriched. You shall be enlightened. Blessed are you, enriched are you, empowered when you have the moxie. Don't you love that word? When you have the moxie to forget conventional things you learned about the misconceptions related to the Bible, of God, of heaven and hell, then you shall be enlightened. We believe you have that moxie. And we invite you to pick up one of these on your way out. It actually goes through everything we've covered in all 4 weeks. It's got the traditional Beatitude, it's got our spiritual practice rewritten Beatitude, and it's got our 10th bonus Beatitude. And on the back there are some questions you can use to study them even deeper, more deeply. So you can get together with each other on the side and kind of discuss these and share with one another. And then it's got a reminder of all the spiritual adventures, and there are extra copies of all the spiritual adventures out on the table if anybody missed a week and wanted to be sure to pick those up. And you also need to get one for this week because we've got these 3 on here. So lots of things to get, but more importantly, what you do with them is what matters. So we just affirm you have the moxie to go out and put these Beatitudes into work in your life as you walk the spiritual path on practice.